Welcome in on this beautiful Tuesday night, cold Tuesday night if you are here in Sacramento. But the Kings return home to play their arch nemesis, the Warriors. Can the Kings get the monkey off of their back tonight, finally get a victory over the pesky Golden State Warriors to kind of shake the losing streak since the playoffs against them? Feeling good for the Kings tonight, in-season tournament game, national TV game on TNT. So lights will be bright. Golden One Center will be ready. We've got you all set up for the game. We'll be right back here in a few minutes on the pregame show on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter, stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Boley. That is a major league smush.
Holy moly, Jim Boboli is right. In fact, Jerry Reynolds will be here at halftime with Grant and I to break down the first half here on If You Don't Like That as normal. And Grant and I will be back to wrap up the game tonight on the same channel right here on If You Don't Like That. So if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on our different shows and subscribe as well. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. We won't bug you with a ton of emails and all that, but you will know when we're coming on the air. So thanks for being in here with me on a nice little Tuesday night. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. Going to get you ready for the Kings and Warriors tonight. Not much to break down here, right? We know what these two teams are all about. We know when these two teams get together that it's inevitably going to be a close game, a fun game, a heated game. You'd have to probably say this is the rivalry for the Kings. Is it the rivalry for the Warriors? To be debated. We'll see. I think it's getting up there, but you know what? The Kings return home off of just a really good November. If you think about everything that's happened this November for this Kings team, the fact that they went 4-2 on their road trip, longest road trip of the season to date, and played some really tough teams and are coming off really the best win of the season. And I know the Kings have had a couple really good wins, but the win in Minnesota all around was the best win easily by the Kings in this young season, and a really good one to hang your hat on. That was a team that had won 10 of 11 coming into the game. They were undefeated on their home court. Sacramento walks in there and just executes their game plan to a T. So credit to Mike Brown, the coaching staff, the players, everyone involved with Sacramento on that night, because they really just came out and showed what this team wants to be, what they can be. And hopefully that rolls over to tonight, again, against the Golden State Warriors, a team that seems to just have Sacramento's number a little too much as of late. But this is the perfect time to get back on track. You know, you're going to have a national TV audience. This is an in-season tournament game. So a lot of talk about the in-season tournament and the different ways that Sacramento can advance. Sacramento is in control of their own destiny right now. They are 3-0 in tournament play. So a Kings win tonight. Done deal. They win Group C. They head to the knockout rounds in Vegas, which will start next Thursday. A week from this Thursday will be those games, and the championship game would be next Saturday. Now, if the Kings lose tonight, they would still be eligible for the wild card, depending on a couple of different scenarios, which come down to tiebreakers, and the tiebreakers are point differentials in points scored in any of the previous tournament games played. So getting to Golden State, they're 2-1 in the group. So they obviously need a win tonight and a Minnesota loss to get in. There's some other scenarios for Golden State to also get in. Enough, so many that I could run down for another 5 minutes. But really, for what we need to know here, Kings win Group C. They're headed to Vegas. So we'll get into that a little bit more. I want to get your comments in. I see them all come in. Really like it. Yes, that's right. I was going to get to the Thunder score. Good job by you, Guerrero. The Thunder are currently up on the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota 66-64. So let's get to the game tonight. So Sacramento going to be without Keegan Murray with the back injury again. No timetable for his return. What I can tell you is he has been practicing. So the fact that he was listed as doubtful was a little bit surprising. He was ruled out early. What's that going to change for the Kings? A lot. I mean, you're going to see what they're going to do on the front line. And again, you got a taste of what this Kings team can do with the new and improved front line, with the addition of Trey Lyles stepping back onto the court for the Kings. In fact, the Kings have 7 guys averaging double digits in November, one of them being Trey Lyles. And obviously it's a smaller sample size because he's only played a few games, but this is one of those prototypical games that it is a very good thing that he is back tonight, because the Kings are going to need that presence on the offensive boards. They're going to need that presence offensively, just in general, with shooting the ball, because this game at some point is inevitably going to turn into a run and gun perimeter game. Now, the difference in this game, or where the difference can be made, is on the front line and down low. And although the Warriors have had the Kings number too many times down low, especially with the offensive rebounding, Golden State still third in the NBA in offensive rebounding per game. So something you've got to think about if you're Sacramento. And on the Sacramento side, offensive rebounds have actually been a strength of theirs as of late. They've done really well on the boards, getting second opportunities, especially against teams that have presented, mismatches in, kind of games or matchups that you would think would not be preferential to the Kings. They have actually found a way to somewhat exploit those. So the Kings have to get it done and at least stop the Warriors on that side of the ball and on the glass. That's the big thing. But getting back to my original point, the Kings front line could take this Golden State front line to task tonight, depending if they can play inside-out basketball. And when I say inside-out, that starts with the normal names. Domantas Sabonis, he has to not hesitate, and he has to have a big game tonight. He cannot back down from what the defense gives him, and he cannot hesitate whatsoever. And then you roll over to the normal characters. Trey Lyles, what's he going to do off the bench? Does Trey Lyles get the start tonight maybe? Mike Brown had been going small with Chris Duarte and Kevin Huerter, kind of playing the pseudo 2-3s in the absence of Keegan Murray. I'm guessing he'll keep it the same tonight. But you'll probably expect a very large dose of Trey Lyles and probably get a little bit of Sasha in there as well. As for the Warriors, they're pretty much full strength. Draymond Green returns to the lineup tonight. It's one of those things. It's Draymond. Grant's already on record saying that he thinks Draymond will have a technical foul in this game. Draymond is embracing the full-out heel persona that he has. And he's going to try to get under the Kings' skin early. We know that. It's one of those things where the Kings have to be smart, as we always say, and they can't play into it, and don't get into a flopping matchup either. That's going to be a huge problem if you're Sacramento, because that's only throwing freaking gas on the fire that Draymond burns by getting into that little chippy, trying to – could you argue Sabonis flopped a little bit in the playoffs with the stomp? Maybe, but that throws that, that's that gas on the fire for Draymond, more or less speaking. It kind of gets him going and gets the rest of the team going. So don't even give him an inkling of that. But I think, with Draymond missing 5 games, he's going to have fresh legs, but he's going to probably have to get a little bit more into the flow of things. You have an opportunity to make things awkward on him stepping back onto the floor. So I'm really excited for tonight. As far as the Kings go with their rotation, it's going to look pretty much the same. Mike Brown has come out and said that Davion Mitchell will continue being a part of the rotation, regardless of Keon Ellis being available tonight, which is smart for Mike Brown. I think that really, if you look at it, Kessler Edwards will probably be the odd guy out when it comes to that rotation now off of the bench. But a guy that we talk about so much, Malik Monk, a ton of attention has been put on him. Most recently, a lot of publications talking about this being a contract year for him and what will the Kings do with him and his performance thus far. He's got to have a big game. The Kings have to have another big game from their bench tonight. And all too often, we don't see those two units show up together when the Kings play the Warriors. We either see the starters playing really good basketball, or we get the bench that has to come in, mop things up. And they're the ones that bring the starters and the Kings back into the game. Tonight's one of those games you need both sides firing. The Kings bench, what an asset in Minnesota. They scored 45 points. That's pretty darn good, especially to Minnesota's 25 from their bench. So you get another performance like that tonight from the Kings. I think that things are going to be looking good in their favor. I just think, especially after the 2 early losses to this team, the Kings are going to be ready to go tonight, and that Golden One Center crowd is going to be rocking. Dave, I'm sure Grant would appreciate that. Glad that you got a Lexus based off of his advertisements. Hope you're enjoying that car, bud. Come back at halftime. Grant and Jerry will be here. Oh, boy, that is right. We got some fun things coming up with the phrase, oh, boy, so stay tuned for that. C-Dog getting in on the action. I think it's the biggest game of the season so far for the Kings. I do, Connor, I don't know if it's the biggest of the season for the Kings thus far, but I think it could be looked back upon as the biggest game if the Kings come out and win this game. Because I say that they've struggled coming off of road trips. And that's something that happens a lot of times with teams. Regardless, it's just not a Kings thing. But they got a big rest. The last time the Kings played was last week. So they've been off for over 4.5, 5 days. So I think that, they should be rested and pretty focused. I mean, they weren't on a huge run. Let's put it that way. They had lost 2 games. They get a big win in Minnesota. But more importantly, they needed time to heal. And Grant made a beautiful point on the post-game show after the T-Wolves game saying, look, these guys have to adjust back into their normal lives. Things for them are much different on the road versus being at home just on a personal level. And with this break that they've had since the last game, I think that gives the Kings a chance to settle into that. Now, because the Kings, the 10 of their next 11 are going to be on their home court, setting the tone for this upcoming stand with the Vegas tournament, whether or not the Kings are in it, sandwiched in between those games, setting a tone could be huge for them because they've got some good teams rolling into Golden One Center. So if the Kings come out, dominate on national TV, they wrap up Group C, they're going to have a lot of attention on them. Look, if you read The Athletic, they had a publication, and they've got the Kings in there as almost contenders, and there's a small group of teams listed in that category, and then just even a smaller group of teams that are listed as contenders. And I think Sacramento really could take that step, or at least nationally get that run heading into this Vegas tournament should they win tonight. And this would be a reason to look back at and say it was a big game. So, yeah, Connor, if they win, I think retroactively we say that. Crazy, what is up? Crazy MS Teacher. That is a different handle. I like it. The rest better keep a tight ship tonight. It's a great point, and I guess it's an every night thing, but especially coming off of the game that we saw in Minnesota, the refs caused that game to have no flow. Basically, what I'm saying is the teams didn't have really a reading on how they could play. They didn't know what was going to be a foul because one thing that wasn't a foul on one end was being called as a foul on the other end. So it was tough for them to really settle in. But tonight with this Golden State Warriors team coming in, it could get really messy really quick. These two teams do not like each other. So, and when I say they don't like each other, we've seen what happened in the playoffs. The fan bases, definitely, it's kind of a high school atmosphere whenever Golden State comes to town. And when the Kings go to Golden State in San Francisco, it's kind of that atmosphere too, because you have a lot of Kings fans down there. So it could be quick to get out of control, both on the court and off the court. So that starts with the referees. Give these guys a point to play off of and an understanding of what's going to be a whistle and what's not, because you've got veterans on the floor that are crafty at getting away with things that you and I don't even notice. Like Chris Paul, for instance, he's one of them. Draymond, definitely one of those as well, although he's not as sly sometimes. So refs need to run a tight ship. Baki, what is up, my man? Holy moly. Who's saying my name? I don't know. Somebody say your name, Baki? Somebody yelling here in the back of my house? Matt, what is up, my friend? Will Draymond be on his best behavior coming off of the suspension? No, not a chance. If anything, he's going to be on worse behavior. I don't know what the exact comments were, but to paraphrase, to loosely paraphrase, he basically said it was going to be the opposite. He was going to be more fired up than ever and be more Draymond than ever. Now, can Steve Kerr kind of rein that in a little bit? And is Steve Kerr responsible for some of this? Absolutely. But to see how that plays out on the court tonight, it'll be an interesting subplot to this game to see if there is any conflicts between Steve and Draymond and his behavior. C-Dog getting back in on the action. Expect boos every time Draymond touches the ball. Yeah, to be expected. I think that was that's one that's an easy bet. What is up, Jeff? Yeah, start time will be delayed because of Bucks and Heat. I got that up right there. So if you see me looking up, that is why. So we'll keep a track on that. Let's see. Will Steve? Yeah. I don't think, Matt, he's going to pull a Greg Popovich, but that would be definitely interesting. My mic down. I'm too loud. And hello from Costa Rica. That's weird. My mic is always set at the same level, so I'll talk a little bit quieter. Grant always wants me to talk across the room, so we'll be a little bit better about that. Let's see. Baki, no wild card for us. Can reach by Phoenix or Golden State. Well, Baki, yeah, but it depends. I guess you're right to a degree. Yeah, you're right because of the tiebreakers. That's why I said the other scenarios don't matter. Kings win, Kings are in. That's all you need to know. The Kings are in charge of their own destiny tonight. By the way, the Kings unveiled a new team store at Golden One Center, so go check that out if you haven't already. Thank you, Ash. I appreciate you talking about the likes we have on the show so far. Go ahead and give us a like if you haven't already. We would really appreciate it. 2.7K. I hope it's that many. That'd be pretty cool, Ash. So it's a big game anytime the Kings and the Warriors get together. What's up, Burn Dog? Checking in from are you in San Diego right now, Burn Dog? I always like it when San Diego checks in. Appreciate that, my man. Let's see. Huge game. So I keep your comments coming. I'm going to get as many up here as I can. Huge game. So pumped for this game. I think everybody is. And when we think about these games, we think about the runs that Golden State tends to make against Sacramento. And the Kings have done a really good job, especially the last game against Minnesota, curtailing runs, whether it be with their play, whether it be with timeouts by Mike Brown, and teaching moments, or whether it just be, making plays at the right time, or, maybe a little bit of luck too. Let's throw that in there. How many times against Minnesota did it seem like they were just a possession or two away from making it a game, and Karl Anthony Towns makes a crucial turnover, or just Minnesota kind of looked like fish out of water trying to push the pace because that's not their game. The Kings, what I'm getting at is the Kings did a great job in their last game of not letting that happen. Now with this game, it's a different story. The last couple games have played out and let's throw out the last game actually in Golden State that De'Aaron Fox did not play in. I think, and by the way, De'Aaron Fox averaging 39 points against the Warriors this year because he played in one game, but 39 still 39. So hopefully he gets 39 more tonight. But you look at the first couple games, even we can go back to Game 7 last year. It was runs that the Kings could not respond to. And the Kings have to find a way to know when to call a timeout tonight, to know when to slow things down or when not to push. I mean, all too often when the Kings are playing bad basketball, they will try to force a fast break, even if they don't have numbers. Pull it out. Sometimes they need to pull it out when they have numbers, depending on the situation in the game. What I'm saying is the Kings can't allow the Warriors to go on any of those prototypical Steph Curry, Klay Thompson runs where before you know it, it's 12 points on the board and the Kings are wondering what the heck just happened. So if anything, the Kings have to make sure that they are responding with some of those runs. Punch first. Don't wait to get punched. And the Kings have done a good job, and that's going to be where the crowd comes into it too tonight for the Kings at Golden One Center. The Kings have a crowd that's ready to just explode for them coming off of a huge road trip. So take advantage of that, exploit it. I mean, really get that crowd into the game because this isn't a great Golden State team. Now, it's funny when we say that because they always give the Kings problems, but, they only beat the Spurs the other night by a few points. I think it was 3 or 4 points. So they're struggling so far this year. They've had injuries, Draymond, his suspension. Now, Golden State also has guys that are not producing like they usually do. Andrew Wiggins, he's been a little bit slow. He's been known as one of those Kings killers at times. And then they've got other guys like Looney, who always step up on the boards for the Kings. So it's one of those things where they've got to know their matchups and they've got to take advantage of the personnel on the floor and realize the Kings are supposed to be on the same floor as the Golden State Warriors. Sometimes I think it gets in the Kings' minds that, though this is a big team coming in. Well, guess what? The Kings are a big team now. Teams circle their calendar when the Kings roll into town because they get a lot of run now, whether we want to recognize it or not. So they've got to play up to the moment and know that they deserve to be in this game tonight. So hopefully they show up and they get it going. We're going to get some keys to the game here from BSU Power. Tempo, 120s. Yeah, well, I mean, that's really where these games end up, especially with the pace that both teams play at. Now, I would counter your tempo and say tempo without turnovers. Golden State has a tendency to turn the ball over a ton, whether they're playing the Kings or whether they're playing a bad team. So make them pay for those turnovers. Now, on the flip side, the Kings have to, as Jerry Reynolds would say, love the leather. They cannot come out and be careless with the ball because you cannot give turnovers to this team and let them capitalize on it. Second, don't let Curry and Thompson beat you in this game. Easier said than done. I would say don't let both of them beat you. Curry's going to get his to a degree, but you can't let Thompson also have a big game. Or a third guy, Andrew Wiggins, have a big game. Chris Paul, he's not going to do it from a scoring aspect, but Chris Paul's one of those guys that absolutely kills the Kings every single time he's on the floor from an assist standpoint, from an orchestrator standpoint. He works his body positioning and his angle so well that he sets his other players up for success. And that's made a big difference for the Warriors this year as well because it's allowed Curry to play off the ball. It's allowed Klay Thompson to play more off the ball. And when the Kings have to worry about guarding both of those guys off the ball at the same time, that's a tough ask. Limit the threes. Well, you're not going to. Golden State, I'm looking. So before the game, I'm trying to understand what does Golden State do well? Offensive rebounding, that stands out to you, But you look at their field goal percentage and their field goal attempts compared to the other teams in the NBA. Field goal attempts, they are 9th in the NBA. But field goals, they're 9th per game in the NBA. Field goal percentage, 26th in the NBA. So that's one of those things where it's telling you the threes are their game. So I'm almost saying drive them off the line, kind of what you're saying. Don't let them hit open threes or limit the open threes. Or you can give open threes, but just give them to the guys that aren't going to kill you all the time. And that does not include Saric. Saric can play really, really well for this team as well. So, the three ball is going to be big. No doubt. The Kings' three ball is going to be big as well. Team rebounding, that's a huge one. And win the battle on the boards. Yeah. That's one of the things the Kings can absolutely do tonight. They've shown if they can offensive rebound with the Minnesota Timberwolves and get second opportunities against a team like that is built to not allow teams those opportunities, then they can do it against the Golden State Warriors. Another keys to the game, try to put Looney and Curry in foul trouble. Yeah, obviously. Curry's a more tricky one to get in foul trouble, but certainly I think Looney, you could be easily straight into believing that you could get him in foul trouble. And that's where the Kings' aggression comes from. And that's where I point to guys like Harrison Barnes, right? Harrison did a little bit more for the Kings in the win in Minnesota. And this is the type of game where Harrison can be so beneficial to this team, where he can post up a little bit down low when he gets desired matchups. If you're Mike Brown, I'm identifying the pick and roll matchups. I'm looking at how the Warriors are going to play the pick and roll with the Kings. The last few games when Sabonis has played, what have the Warriors done? They sag off Sabonis. They say, Domas, you can do what you want, but we're not going to let the jump shooter or the guy with the ball beat us. So if you're Sabonis, take it inside. If you are wide open, establish your jump shot. He has shown at times he can make that jump shot. So if those things happen and they're making those right decisions, then you could theoretically get some of those guys, some of the bigs for Golden State into foul trouble. So I'm loving all these comments. I appreciate you guys being here as always. I don't know about you guys, but I was very, very hungry for Kings basketball coming off of this little mid-season break or early season break. But if you're hungry for some darn good food, don't forget about Bennett's Westside Grill, new location in Rockland. Also have their other locations in Roseville and off of Howe and Fair Oaks. It's that time of the year. We all like to dine out a little bit, office parties, have a nice dinner with your family before Christmas. Choose Bennett's. They've got a little bit of everything for everyone. Awesome seafood, great prime cuts of steak, great prime rib on the weekends, mimosas and brunch on the weekends. And they've got some beautiful private dining rooms at their locations if you would like to do an office party or have a family get together. So give Bennett a shout out and give them a try if you haven't already. We are so grateful for all of you that have been to Bennett's already and provided really good feedback. They are our favorite. Brian Bennett and his staff do it unlike any others. So go check them out. Bennett's Westside Grill, now located in Rockland. So let's get back to your comments. I am loving all of the input, and I appreciate you guys getting into this. I mean, I'll pose this question to you. When you look at this game, you know, C-Dog thinks it's the biggest game of the season so far. How important is this win to you? And when I say how important, I want you to say what's more important, a win against the Warriors or a trip to the elimination rounds of the in-season tournament? What's the bigger of the two? I know you can have both, but what do you see as the bigger? Because I personally see the in-season tournament as just it's a bonus. It's with the Kings nicked up and having injuries right now, I almost see that time during the tournament, if the Kings aren't there, is a bonus because then they can get healthy. But you could also ride a ton of momentum if you win that tournament. But also, a win against the Warriors, something the Kings have not been able to do since the middle games of that first-round series last year. That's just as big. They've got to get this monkey off of their back. Ash is saying it is a full moon beam. I hope so. I sure hope so. Yeah, Keegan is out tonight. It's one of those things. It's a back injury, so they're going to keep looking at it. And I would say again, he's practiced. He went through shoot around, so things are moving in the right direction. Let's just thank our lucky ducks that Trey Lyles is back and contributing in his place. Let's see if Harrison Barnes can go 7 for 11 again. The Kings will have a great or a good night. Completely agree. Good point there. I completely agree. And like I said, in November, the Kings have 7 guys averaging in double digits. So let's close out a heck of a good November and roll into December with a lot of momentum. Yeah, I'm loving this thought right here by C-Dog. What a night for Fox to finally get the 50 burger. He's flirting with it. I mean, he's made it look completely effortless against some really good teams. And he's had 39, 40, 42. So that 50 is right around the corner. And that's going to take Fox being aggressive from the first whistle to the last. Fox, the game against Minnesota was just such a weird game because the lack of the foul calls, the guys really didn't know how to get into, they didn't know what to expect, right? In most NBA games, just like an umpire in MLB, you get an idea of what the pitch zone is if you're a hitter, or the strike zone, excuse me. And they couldn't get that the other night. And there was a lot of times Fox should have made it to the line. So, had Fox gotten to the line a little bit more, that could have been a possible 50 burger. So it's one of those things. This sets up well for him. He knows Steph very well. They train together in the offseason. This game reeks of a big game from De'Aaron. Now, Sabonis, he's the bigger wild card. Is Sabonis going to be able to step up and provide the Kings that big game that he has not given the Kings with Fox still on the floor against the Warriors? So that is the big question to me. So let's start getting some of your scores in. So I know you guys are kind of predicting the quarters. I think the Kings have to have a big first quarter. So that's number one. The Kings absolutely have to come out. I'm not saying it has to be a 40-point quarter, but anything less than a 35-point quarter against Golden State, it's not going to be a good quarter because they're going to probably score the basketball in either the first quarter or the second quarter, and you've got to be prepared for that. I remember last game against Golden State in Sacramento. Golden State, the Kings had a really good first quarter and then just a terrible second quarter. So one of the trademarks of winning basketball by the Kings this year has been opening quarters and closing quarters well. So there's no reason they can't do it against the Warriors. Again, we're looking at, when I look at the Warriors, it's one of those things. It's the Steph Curry factor, right? Is he going to have a 50-burger? And can the Kings sustain a 50-burger and still win against the Warriors? I think the answer is yes. You just can't have Klay Thompson for 17. You can't have Looney with 13 rebounds. You can't have Draymond with 21. So it's going to be a fun night, but the Kings have to be able to score and play start to finish very well. Ryan, Kings need to, shoot their free throws at a high percentage. Yeah, Frog, they've struggled with shooting at a good percentage from the free throw line so far this season. So I would like to see them do that tonight. And again, that starts with the physicality, inside-out basketball. The Kings, they have to make a decision on how they're going to attack the Warriors. Are they going to use a mixture of the dribble handoff and pick and roll? Are they going to be more aggressive with one or the other? Are they going to drop into any zone defense? Do they expect to see any zone defense? They've got to make those decisions ahead of the looks that Golden State gives them based off of the film. And I think tonight is a perfect night for the pick and roll. Get Golden State's guys in foul trouble and make them make a choice on how they're going to guard you, because the Kings, they shot the ball wonderfully against the Timberwolves. And I told you guys on this show, I said the Kings are too good of a shooting team to have another bad shooting night before that Minnesota game, and they did exactly that. They came out and they rained threes. So I think that if they do the same tonight, coming out, being aggressive, and they're going to do good. They're going to do good. You guys always say hate on the Kings. I'm not hating on them tonight. I think this is the night they get that dub. So we're getting some answers here. The dub against the Warriors is bigger. I agree. Win against the Warriors. Yeah, I was kind of feeling that too. Beat the new evil empire basketball, a.k.a. the Warriors. Well, I wouldn't call them the new evil empire. I would say like the exiting evil empire, because it feels like their window is kind of closing up a little bit. But let's see. We're getting another comment about this being a barometer game. I do not disagree with that. Kings against themselves. Yes, not necessarily for when they are in regards to other teams. Yes, I love that comment. Sometimes the Kings beat the Kings, and it has nothing to do with their opponents. Good job, Gabriel. So look at Game 7 last year. The Kings beat themselves. Granted, they gave 50 up to Curry, but they beat themselves. Offensive rebounds, they beat themselves. Those are hustle plays. The Golden State wanted it more. So the Kings, if they do come out, and usually where you see that stat is the assist-to-turnover ratio. If the assist-to-turnover ratio is 1-to-1, which is awful, they're in trouble. If it's 2-to-1, they're playing okay. If they're close to 3-to-1, 4-to-1, they are playing Kings basketball. But when it's in that 1-to-1 range, they are beating themselves. So that's the stat to watch. It's important win for confidence, knowing that they can beat them. Cobra Kai versus LaRusso. Good analogy there. You know, Matthew, I just saw Karate Kid for the first time like 2 years ago. And then I watched Cobra Kai on one of the streaming sites. So good job. I know what that is. But yeah, I don't know if it's really a confidence thing. Like it seems like more of an annoyance, right? This team, the Kings, speaking of, they seem to have that swagger, right? It seems like this is one of those things that they know they can do it. It's just they just can't get it done. And so honestly, if they can get it done one time, I think that you would see a completely different Kings team show up against these Warriors almost every game. We saw that in the playoffs, right? And then injuries started to happen. I mean, you look back to the playoffs last year, I look at game 3. You want to talk about where the Kings lost that series? It was game 3 with Draymond out. It was nothing after that. You could talk about Harrison's shot to win the game. No, it was game 3. So, Ryan, I would rather, see the Kings at least have a chance to tie the season series with the Warriors. Yeah, good point. They've already played twice this season. It's the third meeting before the end of January. So, very front heavy for the Kings and the Warriors. The Warriors kind of lucked out to a degree because they've got one game without Fox there. And the Warriors really aren't doing as much rest management as they have been in the past with the new rules in place. So loving all these comments, guys. Again, Kings, Warriors tonight. That's what we're getting you ready for. Halftime show right back here on If You Don't Like That. Jerry Reynolds will join Grant and I, as always. We appreciate all of your support. Jerry always has a lot of fun on here. And then Grant and I will be back after the game to wrap things up. And again, if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. And then also subscribe if you haven't as well. We would really appreciate it. And really important, we appreciate everybody that watches this show, however you may consume it, because it goes out to a few different platforms. We appreciate your Twitter viewers that are watching there as well. If you do want to be a part of the show and you're watching on Twitter and you're like, hey, I can't get a comment through, what's going on? Hop on over to YouTube here on If You Don't Like That, Grant Napier's channel, and you can put your comments in and be a part of the show. So we're getting some scores in. I will give mine at halftime. I'll give you a halftime score, but I want to get your finals in. So Christopher, why? So ever since Napoleon started showing up on this show, like the first option that comes up when I hit a comment is block now. So sorry for the delay. If you accidentally get blocked, I will unblock you. Christopher says 118 to 105 Kings. Dirt and Dust, he's going blowout. 135, 119 Kings. So we're getting a lot of Kings wins. 138, 133 OT. Okay. All right. So Brandon's throwing some OT in there. Sea-Dog, he's going low scoring. 122, 119 Kings. Jay, what is up, Jay? Please tell Kathy hi. Kings 128, 120. So a lot of optimism for the Kings tonight. I'm feeling that. I think the Kings. So I will give you my halftime score right now. The Kings will be up at the end of the first quarter of this game. Warriors go on a run early second quarter. Kings bounce back, close the second quarter strongly. The two teams will split quarters in terms of who wins scoring-wise. And I'm going to say the halftime score is going to be Golden State 63, Sacramento 61 at the half. So Warriors by 2 at halftime. Kings ultimately win. I'll give you my score afterwards. Let's see. Ryan, I might be hitting or biting my nails off tonight if the game gets close in the fourth. Yeah, it's a Kings-Warriors game. What else are you going to do? And expect it to be close. I hope that you have all of your nails by the start of the fourth quarter, but unlikely. It's going to be a close game. Now, the only situation in which I see it being a blowout is the Kings blowing the Warriors off the court. So that would be the one situation, but I don't think there's any way the Warriors blow the Kings out tonight. So Cody, let's go. Yes, indeed. So we're running long. We've done a 40-minute pregame show for you guys. Let's get some NBA scores in here really quick before we sign off. Timberwolves have gone up, so that's important to the Kings tonight. Timberwolves are up 93-90 with 5:12 left in the fourth quarter. Mavericks down 3 to the Rockets, 66-63. That one's in the third. The Bulls take the L to the Celtics, 124-97. Celtics rolling in Boston. We've got the Nets 115-103 over the Raptors. Cavaliers 128-105 over the Hawks. Bucks 131-124 in the game preceding the Kings and the Warriors. Getting ready to go live now. I see right now on TNT they're showing the Group C standings for the Western Conference. And then we've got the Hornets losers tonight in New York, 115-91. Knicks win on their home court. So that wraps it up for us. So remember, Sacramento Kings win, and they are into the elimination rounds of the in-season tournament. Lose, a little bit more is up to chance. But if the Timberwolves hang on, then there's a little bit more leeway for the Kings because of point differential and tiebreakers. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me here on the pregame show. Come back at halftime. Grant and Jerry Reynolds, and then Grant and I will wrap things up after the game. Appreciate y'all being here. Enjoy the first half. Go Kings. Light the beam. See you at halftime.